Welcome back to Timur's Tactics. Today we're diving into the Budapest Gambit, and I'll show you two ways it explodes. Game 1. Adler Variation. White accepts the gambit and gets wrecked. We start with pawn to d4, knight to f6. White supports the center with pawn to c4. And now black shocks the board with pawn to e5, the Budapest Gambit. White plays the Queen's Gambit. Black responds with the Budapest Gambit. If white captures, pawn takes e5, the gambit is accepted, and we enter the sharp and tactical Adler Variation, where black's knight and bishop coordinate to create chaos on the king side. But if white decides not to capture, and instead pushes pawn to d5, that's the declined variation, leading to the famous "don't take the queen" trap, where white's calm approach turns into disaster after one greedy move. We're covering both versions today, the accepted and the declined lines of the Budapest Gambit. Now first, let's go over the Budapest Gambit accepted, the Adler Variation. After pawn to e5, white decides to capture, pawn takes e5, accepting the gambit. Look at these lines. What do you think the black knight is thinking here? It's already dreaming about invading f2, opening up the king and teaming up with the bishop for a knockout. Black knight to g4. Attacking the pawn on e5. White thinks, black just wants the pawn back, and calmly plays knight to f3, protecting it, unaware that this move walks straight into the trap that's coming next. Black continues with pawn to d6, reopening the center and preparing to recapture. White takes, pawn takes d6, the best and most common move. And black recaptures, bishop takes d6. This is the critical part of the Budapest Gambit. You'll see why in just a second. The bishop now sits on a powerful diagonal, slicing straight toward g3 and h2. White gets tempted. Pawn to h3, trying to push away that super annoying knight and fix the position. A very common move, but also the beginning of the end. Here comes the shocker. Knight takes f2, and white's thinking, what is going on? There's a fork between the rook and the queen. It must be a blunder, right? Wrong. If the king doesn't take the intruding knight, white still has to give up either the rook or the queen. There's no escape from the fork. And notice, the knight seems completely unsupported. But when you see moves like that, a knight diving in with no backup, there's always a bigger reason behind it. Watch out for that in your own games. Here, white decides to take the knight, king takes f2. And here's the real reason behind it. Bishop to g3, check. The king is forced to capture the bishop. King takes g3. And that's when queen takes d1, winning the queen and sealing the trap. And that's how the Adler Variation ends. One fearless knight leap, one quiet bishop check, and the queen disappears from the board. That's the danger of accepting the Budapest Gambit. It looks harmless, until it isn't. But what if white refuses the pawn altogether? Let's look at the Budapest declined, where the trap is even more devious. Let's revisit that same moment, the Budapest Gambit, where black pushes the pawn to e5. But this time, white declines the offer. Thinking, there's no such thing as a free pawn. White decides to play safe and pushes the pawn to d5. What kind of gambiteer is this player, right? Refusing free material, but walking straight into another trap instead. Black develops fast with bishop to c5, aiming straight at f2. White plays bishop to g5, a very common move in this position, pinning the knight to the queen. It looks logical. White develops and adds pressure, but this move quietly sets the stage for the trap that's coming. Black strikes back with knight to e4. All of a sudden, white thinks, wait a second, the knight's attacking my bishop, but it's also left the queen undefended. What a blunder. But this is where appearances deceive, because what looks like a mistake is actually the start of the trap. White can't resist and captures the queen. Bishop takes on d8. It looks like the game is over. White just took the most powerful piece on the board. But that's exactly what black wanted. The queen was never the target. The trap was already set. Now stop for a second. Pause the video right here and think. What's the most powerful move in this position? White's up a queen, but the board looks ready to explode. Take a moment and see if you can spot the move that ends the game. All right, time's up. Here it is, bishop to b4, the move that changes everything. A stunning check and the start of the end. The bishop pins the white bishop to the knight, cutting off every escape. Suddenly, that free queen wasn't free at all. There's no defense. The board collapses, and in just a few moves, checkmate. That's the Budapest Gambit declined, the so-called queenbaittrap, where greed meets punishment. And that's how the story ends. White thought they were winning the queen, but walked straight into checkmate. Both versions of the Budapest Gambit show the same truth. It's not about material, it's about momentum. In the Adler Variation, one knight leap to f2 changes everything. In the decline trap, a quiet bishop move ends the game. One accepts, one declines, and both lose. Let's wrap it up with a few key lessons from this incredible opening. Thanks for watching, and if you like this breakdown, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss the next Timur's tactics. Because in chess, sometimes the real checkmate starts with a free pawn.